Chapter 5. The Legend of the Bruce Brothers. Sometime while I was in the 8th grade, we moved again because our lease was up on the house we rented in Oak Park. This time we moved to nearby Ferndale, just off a 9-mile road. My parents found a house and we had saved up enough money to put a down payment on it so that they could own a house instead of renting it. The house cost 30 grand. The good thing about the move was that John and Joey only lived about 2 blocks from our new crib, and our friendship grew a great deal because of that. Near the end of 8th grade, the principal of Best Junior High, Dr. Sophia, called my mom into school. Turns out, the school ninjas had been keeping a file on me. Your son hangs out with all the black students, you know. He takes the bus every day to the Royal Oak Township, and that's not a very nice place, he told my mom. Like my mom was supposed to be shocked or something. My mom didn't say shit. Dr. Sophia continued. We think he has a problem, he said. Look at these drawings. Somehow, all these drawings I'd done mostly on tests and assignments I neglected to fill out, they were mostly drawings of ninjas cutting people up or people getting shot up. My mom knew those drawings were nothing compared to the drawings that I had at home on the fridge. She had my back. By the time she left that day, Dr. Sophia had a new Ned and Ho. You think just because he's creative, he's crazy? What are you calling me in here for? To tell me about my son hangs out with black kids? Is there something wrong with that? Dr. Sophia was a little bit nicer to me after that, but by then, I didn't give a fuck. I was done hanging out in the township anyway. My focus was wrestling and being a ninja and not taking shit from anybody anymore. I was sitting in the locker room after gym class one day, and all the cool kids were wearing Bermuda shorts. I don't know if you remember Bermuda shorts, but what the fuck? Those Hawaiian-looking shorts with flowers and jungle shit all over them? As much as a floob as I was, if I'd have worn those back in the day, I'd be laughed right the fuck out of class. So I opened my big mouth. You look like fucking Magnum PI wearing that shit. The other kids were going to let it pass after all. Those days I was dressing scrubby again. I was done with the Adidas suits and the rapping for a while anyway. This kid Kobe, this super tough king jock of the school, decided to put me in my place anyway. As he laced up his spanking new Reeboks, he looked at his boys and told me off. Why don't you shut the fuck up, Joe Bruce, dickhead? I wasn't about shutting up anymore. Fuck you, man, I said. Well, frick you, man, I said. The truth was, at this point, I still wasn't cussing yet. No matter what I write in this book about the things I said to people back then, just remember, the truth is I didn't start cussing until I was almost 18. Sometimes, when I'm remembering things I said back then, I forget that. Anyway, I walked over and BAM! I blew his mouth out right there in the locker room. One of the freshest moments of my childhood. This kid was a big jock, one of the tougher kids in school, and I punched him right in his square fucking chin. He had a big jock chin too, like he chews rocks, and I punched him right in his fucking jock ass chin. Why sit there and talk shit to each other, right? I mean, if it's going down, then it's going down. End of story. Why let him have a chance at first blow? I blew his shit right the fuck out before he had a chance to even respond. I've been the same way ever since. If it's going down, I'm the first at it. Then I walked right to the principal's office, something I'd end up doing many times in the 8th grade. See, I started getting into fights all the time. Like I said, all I cared about was wrestling and ninjas. Sure, I didn't care about school or the people in it. In fact, I have never gone through a single day of my life caring about school. For as far back as I can remember, school never ever meant shit to me. I have 2 kids now, and I want them to do good in school, but it's hard for me to tell them to try hard in school, because honestly, fuck school. I hate school. I wish I could tell them, fuck school, you don't even have to go. But my wife would kill me, so I can't tell them none of that. But it's in my heart, believe me. I give no fuck if they slap the teacher's face off. I was such a ninja. I'd sit in the back of the class and the teacher would only pass back 4 assignments for the row I was in, even though I was in the 5th seat. They knew not to even bother handing me an assignment because I wouldn't do it, so they didn't even bother giving me one. Some teachers even put crayons and paper on my desk every day, treating me like a little retarded kid. At the end of the year, Dr. Sophia decided it was time for round 2 of Your Son's Going Nowhere, so he called me and my mom back in his office once again. Your son got straight E's in the 7th grade, and he got straight E's again in the 8th grade. Now he's too old to be in our school again for another year, so I'm gonna have to put him in the 9th grade in high school, but hold on. Dr. Sophia grabbed the phone and dialed the number. Yes, is this the high school? Let me speak to the counselor, he said. Right away, I knew his entire phone call was fake because number 1, there's like 9 counselors in high school. And number 2, it was like 7 p.m. What would counselors be doing still at the school? Oh, Dr. Sophia was on a roll. Counselor? It's Dr. Sophia over here at Best Junior High. You got a pen? I want you to write this down. I've got a student here named Joseph Bruce. He's gonna be coming there to high school next year. First semester on his first report card, if he gets anything other than an A, B, or C, if he gets 1 D or 1 E, I want you to send him right back to my school. You got it? He's gonna do the 8th grade again. If he gets 1 D or 1 E. Wow, that guy sat there and put on a fake conversation in front of me and my mom for about 2 minutes. Dr. Sophia was a fucking crazy old man if you ask me. Even my mom was laughing at that crazy shit. So bam. Next thing you know, I'm in the 9th grade at Ferndale High, living proof you can't fail middle school because you'd be too old. You'd be fucking driving in the 8th grade. My first report card, of course, was straight D's and E's. You know the phrase. In elementary school, they carry you. In middle school, they drag you. And in high school, they fucking drop you. Well, I got dropped like acid on Jimi Hendrix's tongue. Joe Bruce lasted in 9th grade all of about 6 months. During those 6 months, though, I was the epitome of greatness. I was a fucking awesome student, in my eyes at least. Fucking awesome. I put on a pair of sweatpants first day of the school year, and I wore them for the entire 6 months. I made it a goal of mine. I bet my brother and John and Joey that I could do it. I'm gonna wear these same blue sweatpants every day all year. And I did it too, till I dropped out. I always believed it's important to set goals in life. How fresh was I? By the end of those 6 months, those blue sweatpants were fucking hanging off my ass. They were ragged up, they had holes in them, they were stained, and they were fucking awesome, and I wish I still had them. I'd sleep in them every night. Years later, my friend Nate the Mac was at a party, and some chick was showing pictures of her and her friends from back in her high school days. And in one of the pictures, you could see me in the background sleeping on a desk. I thought that was so fresh. In her photos, this girl and her perfect-ass girly cherry pop friends were all on the latest and greatest school activities, making friends and just being happy and great in high school, all around active people, and yet there was me in the background, knocked the fuck out, drooling on my desk, complete with my uncut and matted up hair. Little did any of them people know, or even care for that matter, but what I was really doing was learning the whole time. I was steady learning how to dream. That's how I look at it. Yeah, I was asleep dreaming about what bigger and better things were yet to come. I was late to class every fucking day. The only money I had was food stamps for lunch, and I had to walk way, way far away so nobody would see me spending food stamps. I'd walk to this party store that was at least 1.5 miles away from the school, and when I came back, I was always late. I just didn't give a fuck. I never did one assignment in high school. I gave absolutely 0 fucks. One day, a real high school counselor called me down to his office to voice his concern. I just want to know what happened, he said. At the beginning of the year, you were getting mostly A, B's, and C's on your test. Now you're down to D's and E's. What's happening, Joe? I was like, huh? I was getting A's and B's. Yeah, you were doing great. I sat there talking to this guy for like 20 minutes before he figured out that he was looking at Joe Bice's record. He realized his mistake and pulled up my sheet. Oh, you're Joe Bruce, he said. Then he looked at my grades. Get out of here. I remember this one kid named Noel. What a lame-ass fucking name. If your name is Noel, man, I feel sorry for you, ninja, because that has to fucking suck. But Noel was my boy. He was this kid that I knew from around the neighborhood. And at school, he couldn't seem to decide what kind of crew he wanted to be in. One day, he'd be a preppy-ass Richie kid, and the next day, he was trying to be a thug. Well, on one of his ultra-rare school day of Friday, Noel was in a strange phase. He was in a wanting to be a nobody scrub phase like me. Out of nowhere, he was talking to me at school and he invited me to his house. He said that he had stolen a pistol from his grandpa and he needed to get rid of it fast. I must have looked like the shady type who could use a pistol, so he told me to come over after school and he'd let me have it. I was down. I went right over there after school. Within seconds, he came out with a gun and started cocking and loading it and showing me how it worked. I kept saying, yeah, I know that already. This kid Noel was insistent on showing me his pistol handling skills. Finally, boom! It went off right in his hands. I jumped up off the couch to check myself for bullet holes. I was skinny back then, which helped me make less of a target, I guess. I didn't have any bullet holes, but poor Noel did. He shot himself right through his hand and through his finger somehow. I wasn't sure what happened at first, but once he started screaming and crying like a baby bitch ass, running around the house, holding up his bloody ass hand, it was apparent. I was outie. Fuck waiting for the cops. I called 911 for the whining crybaby, and then I bolted out of the house. Eventually, the cops caught up with me, but only to question me about Noel's stupidity. They said that at first he tried to blame it all on me, but then after a few of their questions he gave up. They told me they couldn't believe what a bitch he was. I told them exactly what happened and how he was just trying to show off and he shot himself. I naturally left the part out about how he was going to give me the gun afterwards. You know, sometimes too much info can be a bad thing. Well, after that weekend, things at school were much worse for the notoriously dirty Joe Bruce. Once Noel returned to school, he quickly re-entered his Noel wanting to be a preppy phase again and blamed the whole thing on me. He told all his homies at school that he was just showing me a gun that his grandpa owned and that I asked if I could have it. And once Noel told me I couldn't have it, I apparently got pissed off and shot him in the hand. Of course, the cops never bought it, but the whole fucking dumbass school was quick too. I didn't care. I liked the extra attention because people began to look at me as a threat to their safety. I would have beat Noel's ass just for lying about me like that, but instead, I just figured being named Noel was punishment enough for him. To pass the time in school, we started playing this game we call Bloods and Crips. John, Joey, and I would be the Bloods, and my brother and some other homies would be the Crips. You'd have to use a cap gun to shoot the other guys. I'd come to school draped up and straight up blood shit. Red bandana, headband, red flannel, and my blue sweats. And just straight up draped, of course, head to toe with cap guns and shit. The kids at school were just like, what the fuck are they doing? We didn't give a fuck. One day I stuck up Nate the Mac, who was a Crip, and jumped on his ass right in the hallway. We teetered for a minute and then smash! We busted through a giant window near the lobby. The fucking security guards were too busy selling weed to the kids to even see it or who did it and to come after us. We got away with it clean. We even took our war out on the streets. Sometimes my brother and I would join sides. We'd pull up on Joey's lawn in our car and burst in the door. With his mom there and everything, we'd drag him out front and give him the beat down. One time we were playing in downtown Royal Oak, one of the few northern suburbs with a lot of shopping and shit, where people are actually walking around. We had a big crew of like 15 ninjas. We were beating each other with garbage cans and shit, chasing each other through the streets. Someone must have seen us and thought it was real because they called the cops. Luckily, one of us saw them a ways off creeping down the street. There were about 10 cop cars with their lights off trying to sneak up on us. We bolted the fuck out of there and got away clean. I felt like a badass. I'd been through the township and now I was acting like I grew up in the fucking ghetto. NWA Straight Outta Compton was out, and with them rapping about how they're driving around in buckets, I thought that was the shit, because I'd only ever been in fucking buckets. My suburban wannabe gangsterism was in full effect, and our old pal Mike Olson was about to wind up on the wrong end of the cap gun fire. My brother Rob still had all his Dungeons and Dragons friends back in our old city of Berkeley, but he hardly knew anybody in Oak Park. We Bruce brothers never went to prom dances, get-togethers, or even half-ass being socially cool. My brother did once get invited to a real actual house party. Once upon a time there was a party in Warren, Michigan, which is about 4 miles east of Ferndale. Some old school, longtime D&D homies of my brother knew somebody, and somehow they all got invited to come to the party. When he got there, he found the girl whose house it was on the front porch crying. My brother, being the honorable, sensitive type, asked her, "What's the matter?"
"This is my house, and I just heard these guys from Warren are gonna come over, and I just know they're gonna start some shit because they always do. They're gonna destroy my house, and I'm gonna get in so much trouble."
My brother was such a good guy with super honor that he was like, "I won't let it happen, I promise." That's the crazy part, no lie. I would have been like, "Damn, sucks to be you then. Hope I'm out by the time they get here." Not Rob. My brother's like a straight up movie character of honor. Not just to try to tap the poor girl's net neither. Honestly, just to help her. One of the lone Bruce brothers was ready to protect this girl's house like high noon or something. Well, when the bad guys got there, who do you think it was? None other than Mike Olson, our old homie. The very same kid my brother gave the giant transformer to before we moved to Oak Park. Well, I guess Mike had moved out of Berkeley as well, cause he was now claiming Warren. Mike was chilling with a few of his new lame-ass Warren jock drinking buddies. My brother walked up to give him a dap on the front lawn and tried to make nice right away. "Hey Mike, what's up, man? You still got that flavor I gave you back in the day?" Too late. Mike Olson had already reached full puberty and turned into a dickhead in only a few years' time. "Fuck you and your toys," Mike said, like a straight-up open, blew-out asshole. Rob couldn't believe it. "What the fuck's your problem, Mike?" Mike puffed out his feeble birdie chest as his 15-plus homies walked up on Rob and surrounded him. "Fuck you, man," Mike said. "You want to do something?" Bam! Stars and a giant flash of ruthless pain suddenly engulfed Mike Olson's face, sending him into complete unconsciousness. My brother socked Mike Olson so hard, it knocked his grandpa Olson's dentures out. Mike's nose was broken into particles. They tried to put it back together later, but now he looks like Michael Jackson's. Afterwards, my fresh-ass brother Rob took off across the street. Mike's boys all chased after him. Rob tried to outrun them as they hopped fences through backyards after him. All the while, he was looking for a weapon to use against them, like a shovel, a stick, anything. He would have done it easily, but whap! My brother hit some chicken wire fence and flipped over. Who would have fucking guessed it? But my old pal Mike's homies beat the shit out of my brother right then and there. My brother was just about to go into the army at this point, but even so, he wasn't okay with letting it go. Neither was I. My brother got stomped, and the Bruce brothers were bent on revenge. Not just any Bruce brothers, but the new and improved ghettoized Bruce brothers. "We gotta fuck Mike Olson up, dog. He had no reason to beat you down," I said. We knew a kid in Warren who quickly found out and showed us where Mike Olson lived. So the very next night, me, Lacey, Nate, John, Joey, and my brother surrounded Mike Olson's house at 2 in the freaky-ass morning. Each one of us had 2 giant rocks in our hands. My brother gave the order. On the count of 3, he whispered, 1, 2, 3, smash! Being in the house with your whole family and every window breaks at the same time? Just imagine that. Oh, we weren't done with Mike yet. Then we systematically hit up his homies' houses over the next month or so. We made it our only priority. Revenge on anybody who was with them that night was our goal. We did damn good too. Our Warren, Michigan nerdy source who went to school with those boys fed us all the info. It was so easy for him to find out where his classmates lived just by following them home and shit. I personally think our spy hooked us up, one of my brother's D&D homies. He loved doing spy work for us. Thanks to him, we went back to Warren 4 times later and fucking did it all over again. Mike Olson's main homie caught the fucking same style activity attack. Mike got it first, then the others. One by one, I felt like Dirty Larry. It was so easy. At 4 a.m., nobody suspects a fucking thing. We were in and out of them yards in about 15 seconds. It was almost no risk to us at all. We were straight fucking them up, surrounding their houses with 2 bricks in each hand, throwing the bricks through different windows. It would happen simultaneously. All the windows would smash in the house at the same time. Think of how fucking ruthless and devastating that is. These assholes beat my brother down at a party, and we got the ultimate revenge on all of them, surrounding each one of their houses and simultaneously breaking all the windows out in the middle of the night. It was true terror in its truest form. We were that fucking ruthless. We were going crazy. Them fools had no idea where this was coming from. So what? We knew. They were feeling the wrath of some kept-in Bruce Brothers scrubbiness exploding back on their asses. Even if they never knew who was causing it, the fact is they were in pain and they were hurting because of us. He had no idea beating my brother would lead to this terrorism. We hit 5 houses total. Each one got hit badly. We did them in hard. Soon, I came up with the ultimate plan for an insane attack that nobody would ever forget. I planned to straight up rush him and attack him and beat him down right in his own fucking high school. It was going down. That was the only place I knew I could catch him and pummel his face physically myself. Joey, Nate, Lacey, Rob, and I worked it all out. First, we put on our black hooded sweatshirts and went out to Warren High School. Then we called the school and acted like I was Mike Olson's older brother. I told the lady that I needed to get Mike's medication to him because he forgot it that morning. I told him it was very necessary that I see it and give it to him. They bought it and gave me his whole school schedule. They told me exactly what classroom he would be in at that time when we got there. We walked right into school and found his room. We all waited down the hall as we sent Nate to the classroom. The plan was to have Nate knock on the door and tell the teacher that Mike Olson was needed at the principal's office. We would then catch him and beat him down in the hallway. Nate was on his way to the room when he was suddenly stopped by some kind of fucking hall monitor lady asking him if he had a hall pass. I got super mad because this was fucking up all our plans. Plus, a couple of teachers were coming down the hall behind us. Fuck it, come on, I said. We ran right up in the classroom and tried to open the door, but it was locked. Joey and I kicked it in. The whole class just stopped and looked, which made it easier for us to locate our target victim. There he was, Mike Olson, just chilling, way in the back of the room. Fuck, why does it always have to be way in the fucking back? Fuck it. I couldn't reach him right away, but with the help of my crazy-ass crew, we fought our way to the back of the class and straight to his ass. The whole time I was screaming, I'm gonna fuck you up, Mike! Bring that shit, bitch! Don't hide! By this time, everyone was out in the hallways, and people were pouring out of other rooms. The whole school was disrupted. Everything was chaos. People running around screaming, girls screaming, desks being flipped and overturned. We jetted like roaches. We all ran out of the school, and we actually got away clean. To this day, I have absolutely no idea why the cops didn't just come and pick me up at home later that night. Nothing happened. No cops ever said shit to us about it. We never had any warrants, no warnings, or anything issued. Back on the streets, Mike Olson and his feeble family finally knew who had been raining hell on them as of late. Plus, rumors began to spread to levels never before seen about the Bruce brothers. People from his class were saying that they had seen me with a gun and that I'd come to kill Mike. People were talking about us like we were cold-blooded killers. Maybe the cops knew, only they couldn't prove a fucking thing. Maybe they'll take me in now after saying this. After that, we lay low for a few months before unleashing any more bottled anger on Mike and his poor fucking homies. They had a family boat in the backyard shed type thing and a nice RV for camping trips. That's all I'll say. They had a boat and a nice RV. For 2 years, understand this, for 2 long, solid years, we destroyed this kid's whole life. Every time we got bored, any night, summer, fall, winter, spring, for 2 years, any night we got bored, it was straight to Mike Olson's house for some late night damage. They were straight up terrorized for 2 fucking years. We started driving around his neighborhood, just rolling up on anyone who looked like they might be down with Mike's crew. We'd ask, hey, what up, man? You know who Mike Olson is? If they did, we would get out and beat them the fuck down right there on the spot. Then they finally came the day when it all ended for Mike, leaving him on a scared wreck and ending our campaign of terror on him. Rolling by his house in our car, we saw him actually walking home by himself. He was totally surprised as I jumped out the car, grabbed him from behind, spun him around and gave him a DDT. That's a wrestling move where you headlock your opponent and drop straight back so their head impacts with the ground first, right on the concrete sidewalk. He never ever saw who it was. Next thing he knew, he was in the hospital, all busted up. I could have fucking killed him. What the fuck were we thinking? What were we thinking? We were fucking terrorizing this poor fucking kid. Now as an adult, I can't fucking believe what we did to Mike Olson and his family. And by the way, the name has been changed. Thank God, or I'd probably get arrested. We fucking terrorized them! I'm telling you, we were insane! We weren't done growing yet. Our brains had not fully developed, or we wouldn't have done something like that. We could have did serious prison time. We straight up terrorized this family. Think of his poor mom. Think of his dad. Think of his RV. Think of his boat. We poured paint all over the inside of his fucking boat. I'm talking like 4 cans each, poured all over the inside of their boat. It was pure terror. We fucking destroyed this kid, man. I think most of the childhood anger that I had was taken out on Mike Olson. The Olsons even moved. To this day, they moved out to Troy, but we just followed right along with our acts of sheer terror. Looking back at what we did, I can't believe that we put his family through that much shit, but fuck it, so what? Bad things happen to us all. Better his than mine. Bottom line, better him than somebody cool. Mike Olson was a dick. He should have thanked my brother for that transformer instead of dissing my brother. And he got his face punched for it at first, and then he got terrorized for 2 fucking years. I can't fucking believe it. I feel like turning myself in right now. I feel guilty. I feel like it's gonna come back to haunt me. We fucking terrorized Mike Olson, you bitch! You fucked with the wrong people. Back in school, I was continuing my long goodbye to the Ferndale educational system. Motherfucking fuck school. I'm 43 years old today, screaming, fuck school. It wasn't for me. After 8th grade, it was no longer for me. I dropped out in the 9th grade, halfway through the 9th grade. Before I dropped out, I remember I had a class on the 3rd floor that had a whole encyclopedia set right by the window. I didn't even realize what I was doing, but I started throwing encyclopedia books out the window, slipping them out the window one by one, not even thinking about it. I was half asleep the whole time. Finally, this teacher from the 2nd floor came up and bitched out my teacher. Do you know what's going on here? My whole class is seeing books fly by the window. All of a sudden, everybody was looking at me and what was left of the encyclopedia set. I stated my case. Man, I didn't even realize what I was doing. I'm sorry. I was fucking out of it. The teacher wasn't gonna let me off that easy. This was the same teacher putting crayons and paper on my desk back in middle school. He was this older looking smiley black dude with jerry curls. When I started high school that year, so did he. He was my teacher back in the 8th grade, and he moved to high school the same time I did. It was like he followed me. I always hated this fucker, just like he hated me. He sat me in the front of the whole fucking class. This kid right here is gonna be nothing, he said. Then he turned to me like the way a talk show host turns to his guest, like he didn't give a fuck who he was talking to, and he just likes being on TV or in front of the class. You're never gonna do anything, Mr. Bruce, are you? You'll come to school your whole life and you'll never do one thing here, will you? You know what? I'll bet that you like that, don't you, Mr. Bruce? That's right, I said, being the fresh guest on this Dick's little talk show. He was going crazy with it, tearing me up in front of the whole class. I think this was his final revenge on me. He had had enough and he was blowing his lid. And the other worthless students he had to deal with, he took it all out on me. He stood me up there in front of the whole class and continued to drill me. Everybody look at Joe Bruce. This is Joe. Joe is happy with himself, even though he's gonna mean nothing at all to the world. He will be nothing. He's never been anything in this world. To me, I was the freshest kid there. I love that fresh moment in the spotlight. I love this little speech about my whole life and how worthless it's all gonna be. I love that he was saying I was as worthless as a grain of salt. I always loved being the underdog. It was my whole model as a true floob, as a scrub, a juggalo. Not yet. He doesn't care to do his work. He doesn't want to do his work. Therefore, he never gets anything done. And it's going to result just like his life. Nothing will ever get done. Thank you, I said. That's right, I'm the bomb. I knew I was gone by that point. I thought about knocking the teacher out for trying to bury me in front of the entire room, but he was way too fucking old. I probably would have just turned his chin into shredded wheat. Fuck it. I walked out the classroom. I walked out the school and I never came back. I quit. I walked out in slow motion with my blue sweats hanging and dangling and bouncing in slow motion, looking fresh. Just like my brother and my sister before me, I quit. I quit. I quit. Fuck school. When I got home, I told my mom, I quit school, Mom. She wasn't surprised. She knew it was coming. She wasn't exactly having it, though. If you quit school, you can't live here, she said.